What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel. My name is Izzy if you don't know me. Some people call me Izzy Busy Bee. Welcome to the Hive. I just graduated from community college with my associate's degree, so to honor that, I thought I would make a tier list of all of the college classes I have taken over the past 3 years. If you see me looking over, it's just because I'm looking at the computer right here. So that being said, let's get right into it. We're going to begin with the first semester of my junior year of high school. I only took 3 classes at the community college. The first of them being Principles of Economics 1. This is just your basic macro econ. I'm gonna go with a B tier. The class itself wasn't bad, like the material, but the way the class was ran and just like the things I had to do for that class were really tedious. Our homework was so disgusting. However, our professor's last name was Truman, so as a play on words, he had this like grading system called True Bucks. So instead of earning points in the class, we would earn True Bucks, and the amount of True Bucks we had at the end of the semester, we would turn in for a grade. That made it kind of funny. Just the way he ran the class wasn't favorable. The other class I took that semester was Introduction to Psychology. One of my favorite classes that I took. My professor was absolutely wonderful. She was a little old woman. I loved her. She even wrote me a letter of recommendation for a program I applied to. Like, we ended up getting really close. I'm a psychology, neuroscience nerd. I love that kind of stuff. I loved the material. The class itself was kind of boring. I mean, it was just you sat there and listened to her talk for an hour and a half. I actually ended up being the top of that class. Still kind of proud of myself. That first semester in college, 16 years old, top of the class in a psychology class. I don't really have any complaints about it, so for that, I'm going to give it an A tier. So moving on to second semester of my junior year. So the first class I took that semester was medical terminology. I really liked getting to learn about not even just the terms, but we learned about the body systems. We did a lot of projects in that class. We did a lot of interactive things. We would have like Jeopardy games for extra credit and stuff. I really got to know a lot of people in that class. The professor was super nice. Wasn't too much of a workload, so I am going to put that in an A tier as well. The second class I took that semester was Introduction to American Politics. The class was just so awful for me. He would lecture straight from the textbook. The professor was older. He had personal things going on. I believe those things hindered his ability to teach. We would sometimes have quizzes that were graded. Some of our quizzes weren't graded. Sometimes he would just give us the answers to the quizzes. Sometimes we would have to find them all on our own. The exams were take home, but like half the answers just didn't make sense. If this says anything, my friend and I sat in the front row and we would play Webkinz the entire time and he would not notice. That is how my government experience went. For that reason, I think we're gonna give this class a D tier. Moving on to my senior year of high school, my first semester I took 4 classes, I think. 2 of them were 8-week classes divided into first half and second half of the semester. One of the 8-week classes that I took was Introduction to Philosophy. Again, not a great class. We had an essay almost every week or two. We're like 4 weeks into the class, 2 essays have been submitted, neither have been graded, whatever. We get our grades for the essays back. Almost everybody gets a 0 on this essay. Not even partial credit, a 0. By that point, we were all freaking out because the second essay has already been submitted. She didn't end up pulling that again, but she was very late with grading. She would make comments that kind of insulted us instead of helping us. You could get away with just not reading the material and still passing the class. For all of that, I'm gonna give this a D tier as well because the class itself sucked. So the second 8-week class I took that semester, which actually came first, was Introduction to Criminal Justice. I liked the class material-wise, but it was just kind of boring to me. A lot of it was stuff I already knew or was used to seeing. We were writing a lot, we weren't doing many projects or anything that was actually exciting. I think I'm gonna put that at a B tier again, just because not horribly in favor of it, but it could have been a lot worse too. The full-length class I ended up taking that semester was Introduction to General Chemistry, I think. My professor was the sweetest guy ever. Had a similar situation with my psych professor. We ended up getting close. He wrote me a letter of recommendation for something. It was hard at points, but that's to be expected. For me, I found most of it to be pretty easy, especially with the homework we were given. Besides the homework being really boring, the class itself was really fun. He got us all to participate. He was funny. I'm going to put that class at an A tier. So moving on to second semester of my senior year, this is when COVID hit, so that played a little bit of a role in how I liked these classes. I took General Chemistry 1 the second semester of my senior year. I actually elected to take this class as a hybrid course, so from the beginning of the semester, all of our lectures were online, but our labs and our exams were in person, up until COVID hit, obviously. A lot of somewhat difficult material to be grasping online when you don't have the help of a professor. My professor wasn't super nice, not very willing to help, and kind of made us all feel stupid. stupid. For my lab, I ended up getting partnered with a woman who's not old at all, but definitely older than me, like an adult. It was a little awkward, but besides that, labs went well. Exams did not go too well. I definitely remember bombing a couple of those exams. I think I managed an A in the class by like 0.5%. There were a lot of good, but I feel like, oh my god, the professor and I got into it a couple times. She posted an update the week that we had an exam. The date that she put for our next exam was the date following the exam we just took. By the time she put that announcement up, we had like 4 days to study for it. I freaked out, studied for the exam, and the exam day comes. COVID had hit at this point, so our exams were online. And I go to take the exam and it's not uploaded. Half an hour goes by and I message her and I'm like, hey, is the exam going on? And she gets mad at me because she made a typo. It was supposed to be the week after. She got all defensive and rude to me because I tried to take the exam when she said it would be up. Did you really think I would give you an exam the week after? And I'm like, yeah, with how rude you've been to us, yes, I would think that. I didn't say that, but I thought it. That class, we're gonna put it a D tier because I did not like that professor at all, and now I'm angry, so I'm gonna rank it a little lower. The next class I took that semester was comparative religions, which I actually enjoyed a lot. It was a little difficult to sit through just because of the way it was taught. The professor was a super sweet guy. You could tell he really meant well. He was a slow talker and he would go off on tangents sometimes and it made it difficult to focus. A lot of the time he would have the lights off because we'd be watching like a movie or something and I would like almost be falling asleep, but you can't fall asleep when you're in the front row. When COVID hit, he was really accommodating, made it a lot easier for us. Our exams were a little lengthy. 6 short essays on questions of our choosing, but our quizzes were so funny and I don't think he meant them to be funny. For our quiz on Hinduism, one of the questions was like, which Hindu god is this? One of the options we could choose from was ding dong. Morally, is that something you could do? I don't know. I thought it was hilarious. I don't know if he realized how it came off because I don't know if that's like offensive. The class was an easy A. He did his best to make it fun for us. I'm gonna give it a B tier. Next class I took was abnormal psychology. It was basically the study of a lot of mental illness. I thought it was a pretty fun class. Fun, because how fun can it be learning about mental illness, right? Our professor was super sweet. She made it as easy for us as possible. She would print out everything for us. She would show us videos all the time, and like we didn't do projects or anything like that. It was all just exams basically. All the exams were take home where we would have the entire weekend to fill it out on our own and email her back the answers. I'm gonna give this class an A tier. I messed up. So my introduction to philosophy course, I lied. I actually took that first semester of this past school year. So because I did a little switcheroo, I'm gonna go back to fall of my senior year. The class I actually took was Introduction to the Arts. This class was all about art, obviously. It was an online 8-week class. I don't know if I mentioned that. All of the 8-week classes that I took from our school were completely virtual. I remember there being a lot of funny looking art pieces in the book. Not to be like offensive or anything, there were just like some legitimately funny things in there. Because I can't remember anything about the class, which probably says something about it. I'm gonna give Intro to the Arts a C tier. It had no impact on my life. This next class we're gonna go over, we're gonna get the bad one out of the way. Analytic Geometry and Calculus 3. It started off great. It really did. We were only graded on 4 exams, the final, and then homework, but the homework was optional. The homework was absolutely awful. It was the kind of online homework where if you get a question wrong, it bumps you back in progress. So to get to 100% completion, which you need for your grade, you had to keep getting things wrong and then get a couple more right. It's endless loop, absolutely awful. Some of the things we were given homework on were things that would never turn up on the exams. He would tell us what would be on the exams, yet he would give us homework for things we didn't need to know. It took so much time away from studying. I couldn't use my calculator because my calculator is too advanced. I did not get a CAS calculator to not be able to use it. I got like a 93 and a 100 on the first 2 exams. And then the third exam hit and I failed it. The last few exams I basically bombed. I never checked my exam grades beyond the second exam. I just saw how my letter grade changed and I was so terrified to look at my exam grades that I just never did. I still have not seen them to this day. I probably cried every single time I did homework for that class. The lectures were boring. He just was not helpful in answering questions. We're gonna give that class an F tier because I don't think I enjoyed anything about that class. We're gonna move on to something I actually enjoyed from that semester, which was General Biology 1. My professor was this sweet old man. His name was Randy. You can't not love an old man named Randy. He did everything in his power to make the class easy for us. He was so funny and I feel bad because nobody laughed at his jokes. we didn't get close, but like he ended up knowing who I was. We had a couple of pretty fun projects in that class. The exams weren't bad at all. This class brought me so much serotonin in relation to the pit of fire that my math class brought. We're gonna give general biology a S tier. The final class I took that semester was brain and behavior, which is another psychology course. It was a very biology heavy course, so a lot about the anatomy of the brain, the way that the brain works. I got to talk to classmates a lot. My professor was super sweet. She clearly cared a lot about our mental health. She even ended up putting like a discussion board up for us just to kind of vent. It was a difficult class because of how much we were expected to know and read. I don't think I had any complaints that were like valid. So we're gonna go with another S tier for this one. This past semester, I took a fewer number of credits because I had already met the requirements for my degree. The first class I ended up taking was linear algebra. It was supposed to be synchronous, which meant we would meet at certain times over Zoom and he would lecture. So the class arrives and he said, you know what? No. He made every single assignment besides the exams in that class due on the last day. He would upload lecture videos, but they were so long. I was looking forward to having this professor because he had a lot of great reviews. I'm gonna give this one a C tier just because I didn't enjoy it. I thought the material was super boring. Didn't like how he basically just threw it all at us. So the next class I took this past semester was anatomy and physiology. I thought I was gonna bomb this class, but that is literally the opposite of what happened. We were supposed to have class 2 days a week, but she ended up eliminating one of the days. The lectures were a little dry, just wasn't horribly interesting to me. The exams were pretty tough. I think they were all 125 questions in 95 minutes. The lab exams were a lot easier. They were all basically pictures where you just identified. It was straight from the textbook. With the circumstances, I don't think the class could have gone much better. I'm gonna give A&P an A tier, which I never thought I would ever say. As you can see, we have one class left. College Physics 1. This class technically didn't have a lecture component. The only time we met was for labs, which was like 2 hours. The labs themselves were hit or miss, which honestly, I didn't do horrible in the labs. They were just tedious. We had to bring lab kits home. It would have been a lot easier if I had a lab partner. The material itself, I'm not a huge fan. The exams were horrible. They were problems taken directly from our homework. So if you knew how to do the homework, you knew how to do the exams. You didn't hear this from me, but if you printed out all the homework problems and printed out the answer keys to them and then had them with you during the exams, because the exams were open note and open book, you could like just look. The professor has mixed reviews. A lot of people don't like him. A lot of people don't like the way the class was ran. He was a little rude to us, but not in like a baffling way. A lot of people, I think, were just too soft during that class. He did a lot to make sure that we knew the material, like giving us a lot of assignments. I think I'm gonna give physics a B tier because it definitely wasn't my favorite class. I didn't hate it. It was fine. Very manageable. That concludes my ranking my college classes video. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. I appreciate your support. Leave a comment telling me what your favorite college class is or your least favorite college class. If you're not in college yet, what classes are you not looking forward to taking? Is it any of these? I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.